Hi, friends. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is quite the morning out there. I couldn't be happier if I were twins with this weather. It is just nice out there. And I don't have to feel guilty because when I was in Florida and it got this cool, people would tell me, they would come up in not such a nice way. And well, how could you be happy? Farmers are losing their crops. You know, like, oh, well, I'm not happy that they're losing their crops. I'm just happy that it's cold. No. So it was the same people who said I couldn't be a New York Yankees fan if I lived in Tampa. I had to be a Rays fan. I said, why? Who would want to be a Rays fan? But not popular with that group. But
Yankees fan.
Yeah, well, if you're north of the Mason-Dixon line, it's either the Yankees or the Mets. And
Red Sox.
yeah, when hell freezes over, which just might be today, depending on the but it's a nice brisk morning out there. There's no wind, so it's not horrible, and it's a perfect Shabbat morning. Maybe we should go outside and daven. Oh, that would be great, wouldn't it? Outside and daven?
A little too cold.
A little too cold. Amy says it's too cold, and all right.
That's quick in your step.
Let's begin on page 68. A little bit of gratitude, thanking God for returning our souls. Mode'ani. Mode'ani lefanecha melechai v'kayam. Mode'ani lefanecha melechai v'kayam. Shehechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla. Rabba emunatecha, mode'ani lefanecha, melechai v'kayam. Page 74, we'll continue warming up. This is part of what is traditionally called Birkot HaShachar, the morning blessings. Lots of introductory blessings and just a way of warming our souls up. Ma tovu. Top of 74. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov. Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, va'ani berov chastecha, ahavo veitecha, ehesh tachaveh, el heichal kodshecha, B'yiratecha el heichal kodshecha b'yiratecha Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha u'mekol mishkan kivodecha va'ani eshtachaveh v'echra'ah evrecha lifnei Adonai osi va'ani tafilati lecha Adonai Eish rahatzon, Elohim, Berov chahastecha, Aneni be'emet, Ishecha. Page 76, my favorite prayer from the rabbis, Asher Yatzar. We thank God for giving us a body that works. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher yatzar et hadam b'chokhmah, uvarav nekavim nekavim, chalulim, galui v'yadu lifnei chisei chavodecha, she'im yipateach echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, yi efshar lihitkayim v'la'amod lefanecha, Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar, umali la'asot. Pages 80 and following, please rise. Birkot HaShachar proper, the morning blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sechvi bina lahavchin bein yom u'bein layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laev koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'inai utnuma me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Ozeh Yisrael b'gvuraha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Oteh Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. You may be seated. Top of page 88, some little piece from the Mishnah, a little piece from the Gemara. Elu Devarim, these are the things that are without limit. You can't do too much of them, too many of them, and you get rewarded in this world and in the rabbi's vision, the world to come. Elu Devarim she'en lehem shiur, shadam ochel perutehem ba'olam hazeh, v'hakeren kayemet lo li'olam haba. Ve'elu hein, kibud av ve'em, u'gemilut chasadim, v'ashkamat beit hamidrash shacharit v'arvit, v'achnasat orchim, u'vikor cholim, v'achnasat kala, leviat hamet, v'yun tefillah, v'habat shalom bein adam l'chavero, v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. All basically things we do to help other people. Page 90 and 92, Kaddish the Rabbanan. Yikadal v'yikadash shmei Rabba, v'yalmad yivrach yiruteh, v'yamlik malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabba v'barach li'olam u'lamei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kusha b'richu. Le'ila min kol b'yachata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiram ba'alma v'yimru, amen. All Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Tamidehon, v'al kol Tamidei Tamidehon, v'al kol man daskin v'oraita, di v'yatra hadein v'di v'chol atar v'atar. Yehei lahon l'chon shlama rabba, china v'chista v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin, u'muzanei v'vichei, u'frakanan min kadam v'lahon v'yishmaya, v'yara v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim tovim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu brachamad ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru, amen. On top of page 94, we're moving out of Birkot HaShachar into Psukei the Zimra, verses of psalm and praise. The brachot are longer, more complex, and focus less on the individual and more on Israel, Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel's relationship to God. Top of 94. Baruch she'amar v'haya olam, Baruch hu, Baruch hosei v'reshit, Baruch Omer v'yoseh, Baruch gozer mekayim, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch mishalem sachar tov l'rei ahav, Baruch chayla v'kayam l'netzach, Baruch podeh u'matzil, Baruch shemo. Let's continue reading together 3 lines from the bottom paragraph in English. With songs of praise, we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty. For you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe, praised and glorious ruler, your name is eternal. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign who is glorified through praise. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal, v'tihishbachot. Page 96, some verses from Psalm 92, which is the psalm dedicated in the book of Psalms for Shabbat. Mizmor shir liyom hashabbat, tov lehodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatecha baleilot, alei asur v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor, alei asur v'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor. Ki samachthani Adonai folecha, maseh yadecha aranein, ma gadlu masech Adonai, mo namku mashvotecha, yishbar lo yida, chasil lo yabin et zod. Tzadik katamar yifrach, ke'erez balvanon yiske shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu Yahafrichu O Genuvun Beseva Deshenim Bera'ananim Yiyu Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Sugri Velo Avlatabo. Page 97, Psalm 144, a brilliant psalm. 145, a brilliant psalm by itself, but when joined with three of its friends, it becomes the Beatles. No, it becomes Ashrei, with a little help from its friends. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, O Jehalu Chasela. Tehillah David, Aromimcha Lahai HaMelech, V'avarcha Shimcha Li'olam Va'ed. Gadol Adonai Lo Meod, V'li Dolato Ein Cheker. Hadar Kavod Hodecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha. Zecharav Tufcha Yabihu, V'tziv Katacha Yeranenu. Tov Adonai Lakol, V'rachamav al Kol Ma'asav. Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, Ugvoretecha Yedaberu. Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, Umemshaltecha B'chol Dor V'ador. Einei Chol Elecha Yisaberu, V'ata Noten Lehem et Ochlam B'ito. Tzadik Adonai B'chol Drachav, V'chasid B'chol Ma'asav. Ritzon Yireav Yaseh, V'et Shabbatam Yishma B'Yoshiyim. Tehillat Adonai Daber Pi, V'varech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Li'olam Va'ed. V'anachnu nevarech Yah, Me'ata V'ad Olam. Hallelujah. Page 100 will continue with the idea of hallelujah, praising God. Psalm 150, the final book in the book of Psalms. Hallelujah, hallelujah b'kodsho, hallelujah b'rkia uzo, hallelujah b'gvorotah, hallelujah kirov gulo, hallelujah b'teka shofar, hallelujah b'nevel b'chinor, hallelujah b'tofu machol, hallelujah b'minim v'yugav, Hallelu b'tziltzalei shama. Hallelu b'tziltzalei trua. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehalel ya. Hallelujah. Top of 101. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. Let's read the paragraph together in English. Let the soul of everything alive bless your name, Adonai our God, and the spirit of all flesh glorify and exalt your name forever, O sovereign. Transcending space and time, you alone are God. We have no sovereign besides you. God of the first and the last, God of all creatures, master of all generations, who is praised in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness, and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps. God awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute, and God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the fallen and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge. L'cha levadcha anachnu modim. Ilufinu le'shu hakayam, u'shonenu v'nakavon v'alav, v'siftatenu shevachem v'piyah. Ein אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולאלוהינו ולאהב אותנו ואימותינו ולברך את שמך על אחת מאלף אלף אלף אלפים. עם אבותינו ואימותינו ועמנו, על כן איברים שפליטה בנו, ורוח ושנקה. הננו לך. כל לשון לך תשמע, כל דרך מותך. מה שכתוב כל עצמותיי, תאמרנו אליי, מי כמוך. כאמור לדוד, ברכי נפשי את אדוני, וכל קרבי את שם קודשו. Top of 104. האל בתעצמות עוזך, הגדול בכבוד שמך, הגיבור לנצח בהנורא בנורותיך, המלך היושב על כיסא רם ונישא, שוכן עד מהרום, וקדוש שמו. וכתוב רעינו צדיקים באדוני, לשרים נבא תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובמקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ורינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור. Page 105, please rise for Yishtabach. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu, Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz, Ki Lecha Na'ad Adonai Eloheinu B'Elohei Avotenu V'Imotenu, Shir U'Shvacha Hallel V'Zimra, Ozu B'Mshala, Netzach Gedula U'Gevura, Tehillah v'tiferet, kedusha u'malchut, brachot v'hodaot, ve'ata v'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, el melech gadol b'tishbachot, el hahodaot, adon haniflaot, habocher b'shirei zimra, melech elchei ha'olamim. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach yirutei, v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayedechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, uv'izman kahariv, v'yimeru, amen. V'yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, L'olam lo me'almaya. Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpar, Vitraman, Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitalev, Vitalal, Shmei Kudisha, Richu, Leila, Min Kobir Chata, Veshirata, Tushbachata, Venechemata, Dahamiram Belma, Vimiru, Amen. Page 108, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Yotzer Or v'rei choshech, Oseh Shalom u'v'rei Atakol. May be seated. Ameir la'aretz u'darim alecha v'rachamim. U'tuva mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma'rabu ma'asech Adonai kulam b'chokhmah asita. Allah ha'aretz kin yenecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shavach ma'aseh yedecha. V'al me'orei or shasita yifru chasela. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir. V'nizkechu lanu mehera li'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Top of page 112, top 2 lines. Ahava harabav tanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chem lagidol lavetera, Chamalta aleinu. Let's read that paragraph together in English. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion, on account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. V'ha'erinenu b'toratecha, v'dahabek lebeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levaveinu li'ahava u'yira et shemecha, v'lo nevosh, v'lo nikalem, v'lo nikashel, Le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodshacha, hagadol v'hanora b'hatachnu, nagila, 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 v'nismecha b'shuatecha, v'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz, v'tolichenu k'mirut li'artzenu, Ki el poel yishuot ata, ubanu b'charta b'kerotanu l'shimcha hagadol sela be'emet, lehodot l'cha li'ahedcha be'ahava, baruch ata Adonai, abocher ba'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levacha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha. V'hayu advarim ha'ele, Asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shiftecha b'beitecha, uvlektecha b'derech, uv'shoktecha uv'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Vayomer Adonai al Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem v'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam v'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf petil techelet v'haya lachem letzitzit uriktem oto uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam v'lo tatuhuru acharei levachem v'acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet V'hatzivahu v'chaviv v'nora b'adir v'tov yafeh hadavar hazeh Aleinu le'olam va'ed Emet Elohei olam malkeinu tzur Yaakov magen yishenu L'dor v'ador hu kayam u'shmo kayam V'chiso nachon mechuto v'emunuta lad kayamet U'devarah chayim v'kayamim V'nemanim v'nechamadim lad olamei olamim Mitzrayim gaztanu Adonai Eloheinu v'beit avadim keditanu Al zot shipchu ahuvim romimu El Venatenu Yedidim Zmirot Shirot B'tishbachot Brachot V'hodaot L'melech El Chai V'kayam Ram V'nisa Gadol V'nora Mashpil Ge'im U'makpiyah Shefalim Motzi Asirim U'fodeh Anavim V'ozer Dalim V'oneh Alamo Ba'et Shavam Tehilot Le'el Elyon Baruch Hu M'vorach Moshe V'nei Yisrael Chanu Shira V'simcha Rabah V'amru Chulam 122 Bichamocha Bailim Adonai Bichamocha Nedar B'Kodesh Nohora Tehilot Ohosei Feleh Shira Chadasha Shivchu Geuli Leshimcha Al Sifatayam Yachad Kulam Odu V'him Lechu V'amru Adonai Yimloch Li'olam Va'ed Tzor Yisrael Kuma Bezrat Yisrael Uftechenu Mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Please rise for the Amidah. We'll chant 124, 126, 128, and yes, wait for it. I know you're expecting it. Page 130 together. And then after that, that's the Kedusha. We'll go silent, and you can finish the prayer in Hebrew. You could read the English translations, or you can offer up your own personal prayer during that time. But we're going to begin together on 124. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu b'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshia Umagen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atachal Lahoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim. Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Givurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Mimi Tolachayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Ata Lachayon Eitim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMeitim. Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam, Kishem Shemachti Shimo, Tov Yishmei Maro, Kakatuv al Yad Neviyecha, V'kara Zeh el Zeh v'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Meloch haaretz kevodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir, Shimcha b'chol haaretz. Baruch kevod Adonai, Mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, v'hu Yashmienu, v'rachamav le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, Ledor vador. Hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid govod lecha, u'lanetzach netzachim kedushatcha nahakdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush li'olam v'ha'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. So let's continue on page 134, and let's read this paragraph together in the English. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Okay, a little bit of Hoda'ah, a little bit of Thanksgiving, page 139. You can't have Thanksgiving without Hakarat HaTov, right? Hakarat HaTov is recognizing the good, and only when you recognize the good can you be thankful. And so lots of people think gratitude, they throw it around. Gratitude, you know, they all want big ticket items. They want to be grateful that they win the lottery, or gratitude can be small things. This morning I was able to tie my shoes with very little pain, which is always a good thing, right? There's something to be grateful for. The fact that it's a beautiful Shabbat day out there. If it's too cold for you, too what? Yeah, it doesn't take anything away from the fact that it's a beautiful day, and we should be grateful for that. Right? And then once we're grateful, we can be thankful. And page 139, I'll start, and then you'll do the first Modim Anachnu Lach together, and then you'll read the second one, and we'll go responsibly that way. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and changing our imaginations.
Modim Anachnu Lach. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons.
Modim Anachnu Lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim Anachnu Lach. For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness and transcendence and separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression.
Modim Anachnu Lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared.
Modim Anachnu Lach. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom.
Modim Anachnu Lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim Anachnu Lach.
Let's read together. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulachane lahodot. We close out on page 140 with the Amidah. As always, a prayer for peace. In the morning, it is Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed berachamim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha. Barucheinu Yotzreinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha. Keep your panecha nahatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Torat chaim v'ahavat chesed. Utzdaka uvracha v'rachamim, v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom. V'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom. V'tov be'enecha l'vaharech et amecha, amecha Yisrael. B'chol eit u'b'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'mevorech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Alrighty, we're going to jump ahead to 253, one of our many prayers for healing. This one is Misha Berach, may the one who blessed. Misha Berach Avotenu V'imotenu, Abraham Yitzchak V'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah, Hu Yivarech et Tachulim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem, Lahachalimam, Lorabotam, Lachazikam, Bishlach Lehem Mehira Refuah, Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim, Refuah Tanefesh, Refuah Taguf, Hashta Baglav Izman Kariv, V'nomar, Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us all say, Amen. We're going to jump ahead to 258 and 259, prayers of our community. And I'll ask Nick in the back to read the prayer for our congregation.
Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy.
Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levacha b'yira na'avod. Elizabeth, the prayer for our country, please.
O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit.
Amen. Shalom Shalom Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Havayach. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Avinu Shabashamayim, Sur Yisrael V'golo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Tzmichat Gulatenu. Hagen Aleha B'Yavrat Chasecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha L'Rasheha, Sareha B'Yoetzeha. V'Takneim Be'etza Tova Mil Fanecha, V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'Simchat Olam Yoshveha, V'Nomar Amen. Joyful Almond, how about the English on 259, please?
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there.
Amen. All right, friends. This week's portion, I love to hate it, because it is such a beautiful portion. There are a number of things that are absolutely phenomenal, and then the rabbis try to ruin it. And I mean, they need to pay attention to the party line. So I understand them trying to ruin it, but I don't think they have to ruin it. But that's why we can't have nice things. There's always a rabbi coming around. This Parsha has the great reunion between Yaakov and Esau. They've been estranged for 20 years, and it's Yaakov is on his way home, both physically back to where his parents are, and metaphorically, he's going to find his home spiritually during this week's Parsha. But the Parsha opens at the top with Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanav El Esav Achiv Artza Seira Sedei Edom. So Yaakov finds himself on his way home, and he needs to cross either in the land where he knows Esav is, or close, Esav adjacent. But Esav is in the area. And Jacob sort of assumes that his brother knows that he's going to be there. And so Yaakov sends out Malachim. Malachim is an interesting word. A malach in general is the word we use for an angel. A malach. And a messenger is a shaliach, right? Somebody you send forth. But and the reason malachim are often called messengers is because every angel has a specific purpose, right? There's not just a group of angels that has nothing to do or decides what it wants to do. Every angel, every type of angel, and when you get into mystics, they do this. But every type of angel, the seraph, the one who was guarding the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, has a fiery sword, right? Those are the defenders. And then you have the those are the seraphim. Then you have cherubim are the ones that are guarding. Those are the guarders, the keruv. They look like in Renaissance art, they look like these pudgy little angels. They are not pudgy little angels. They're more like Rambo with a sword, right? But it uses the word malachim and it's Jacob sends messengers ahead to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the country of Edom. And Rashi comes and he says this very interesting statement, and that's the next line down. Malachim mamash, actual angels, right? And so in some of the background that I was doing for this, I found a Hasidic teaching that Yaakov, because he didn't know what Esau's intention was, couldn't send humans, couldn't send anashim, because Esau would have killed them. So instead, he sends malachim, and Rashi says actual angels. He had a storehouse of angels that he had at his beck and call, and Yaakov sent them to greet his brother or meet with his brother. Now, and then they come back, right? So the malachim come back, and they say, yeah, guess who we ran into? We ran into your brother. And he's coming towards you, and he's got 400 men. Right? And then, and that kind of upsets Yaakov a little bit, right? Because why would Esau be coming with 400 men? Right? And so that leads us into the teaching. This is a Hasidic teaching. It's one that I really, really like. And you need to know a couple of things before we get into the story. There are two rabbis mentioned, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, and he is the founder of Chabad Hasidism, right? So when you see black hats on the streets of New York, and they pull people into these buses and say, are you Jewish? Come in late to tefillin. That's Chabad. That is Chabad. And this is the first Rebbe. And then you have Rabbi Baruch of Mezboz, and he is the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. Right? So he grew up around the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Baruch was from 1753 to 1811, and Rabbi Shneur Zalman was 1845 to 1812. These are the first generation of Hasidic Rebbe's. Pardon?
1912. 1845 to
1745 to 1812.
To 1812, okay.
To 1812.
You said 1845.
Yeah.
But yes, that clears it up.
These are the first generation of Hasidic leaders after the Baal Shem Tov, and they always didn't get along. The Baal Shem Tov never gave a successor. So his two closest students went on their own, and then students from them went on their own. And that's how you get so many different Hasidic courts in the world today. And so there's a lot of talk about an argument that was happening between Rabbi Shneur Zalman and the Rebbe Reb Baruch. And the Rebbe Reb Baruch was suffered from melancholy. He was depressed. He had a fiery temper and a strong will. Guess who one of my favorite Hasidic Rebbes is? Okay? And Rabbi Shneur Zalman is the author of the Tanya. This is a great Hasidic work that Chabad studies, and it's their major piece that they all learn. And there's an argument going on between the two of them. Rabbi Baruch was upset that Shneur Zalman wrote the Tanya, because not all of it agrees with what the Baal Shem Tov would have taught, read that as it may. And Rabbi Shlomo Zalman was upset at Rabbi Baruch because Rabbi Baruch was the first Rebbe to make a fortune from petachim and pidyonot, little request things. And when you go to a Hasidic Rebbe, you write what you want, and you give it to him, and he reads it, and then he'll daven on it or whatever. And that's what Rabbi Baruch did. He said that because he was direct descendant from the Baal Shem Tov, that he had some supernatural powers, that he could grant wishes and things. And and he collected a lot of money. He became fabulously wealthy. And Shlomo Zalman was upset at that. We thought that communal funds, which they were coming to the Rebbe, should be given freely to the community, that nobody should hold on to them. And so they were having this argument, right? There are a number of different reasons. There are a number of different arguments that are throughout the Hasidic literature. Most of them come out with the Rebbe Baruch losing, because he gets upset, slams the door, overturns the table, leaves, stuff like that. But this one is interesting. So we have Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. Yaakov sends angels. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Milayadi, Baal Hatanya, V'Harebi Reb Baruch Mimezboz, Nekdo Shel Hadesh, Sheruim Hayu B'Machloket, Mu Shechet. Right, the two rabbis, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman and the Rebbe Reb Baruch, they were at odds. They had an argument, and it was going on for a long time. Nimsa'u rodfei shalom, shehishtadlu lahashlim bein ha-yerivim. And there were many rodfei shalom, pursuers of peace, who went and they tried to reconcile the two, try to make peace, right? So these people would go and somebody would talk to the Rebbe Reb Baruch and say, listen, Shlomo Zalman Liadi, he's from Russia, give him a break. And then they would go to Shlomo Zalman and say, look, the Rebbe Reb Baruch, he's a bit mishugah, he's close to the Baal Shem Tov, he's his grandson, you guys got to learn to work together. And so these shluchim, these Rodfei Shalom, would go and try to bring peace between the two. Ulam l'shavah, in vain. Never happened. Couldn't do it. Couldn't accomplish it. Hayechasim hit chadedu yoter v'yoter. In fact, matters kept getting worse. So the more people went to try to bring peace, the more things deteriorated. Amar HaRabbi Reb Baruch. The Rebbe Reb Baruch says, Matzinu kasher ratza Yaakov l'shakech et chamat Esav, vayishlach Yaakov malachim el Esav echav. The Rebbe says when Yaakov wanted to literally quench the heat to appease his brother, he sent malachim. He sent messengers. Va'totzaot ephes, and the result gornished ephes, nothing. Right. So in fact, when Yaakov sent these malachim, they didn't have the desired effect. Hine, thus, or however, Vayashuvu hamalachim el Yaakov lemor, Banu leachicha el Esav, v'gam holech likaratcha, va'arba me'od ish imo. And the messengers come back and say, we were up there, we ran into your brother, and guess what? He's coming to meet you. And he's got 400 men with him. And you can only imagine that, he's open and ready for business. I mean, he's sharpening his sword, and that's what they come back and they say that to him. Klomar, that is to say, milchama. Why else would he be coming with 400 men? He wants to wage war. He wants to have a war with you. Varak keshe nifgashu shnehem hipayasu v'hashlimu veinehem. Only when they meet in person do they achieve a peace. Right? All these different types of people, these messengers, they weren't able to do anything with Esau. Mikan she'en lismoch al shlichim. Therefore, we cannot rely on messengers. Yihiyu hashlichim asher yiyu. No matter who they are, they're going to just be messengers. Afilu malachim mamash. Even if you send actual angels, nothing is going to be accomplished until you meet with the person with whom you disagree. Ela tzarich adam atzmo lavo le'emech ha'shaveh im sono vayirivo. That a person has to go meet his opponent, this enemy, directly and face him. Right? One of the teachings, this is a great teaching. It's the Hasidic world trying to say, look, we understand the story of Yaakov and Esau is old. Yes, we understand that, it was a different time, but there's a lesson to be learned from the behavior of Jacob. Right? If you have an issue with someone, don't send messengers. Don't rely on messengers, because what's the problem with messengers?
It's a third party. They're never going to have the full understanding of the disagreement.
They're not going to have a full understanding of the disagreement. What else?
I don't have the exact words.
They don't have the exact words. But when Yaakov's messengers come back and they say, your brother's out there, 400 men, and then the Rebbe says, Klomar milchama. They interpret the 400 men as what? A war party. Right? Now, if Yaakov had gone himself, he would have seen 400 men, but he would have been able to talk to Esau. Right? I think what happens with the Malachim or the messengers, they went and they saw Esau riding towards where Yaakov will be, and they just filled in the blank. Right? Oh, yeah, there's the brother. There's Esau. Oh, he's dressed in his war finery, and he's got 400 men.
Kind of the foreshadowing of Moses' spy on the.
Yeah. Well, the idea is with the spies, and this is what, it doesn't reference it here in this teaching, but the idea is that you can't rely on spies to do what needs to be done for yourself. Right? Not with spies or messengers. Right? And so this is a very deep teaching.
I'm assuming that since the words were used for the messengers, that they were messengers with agency, that they had some.
Well, yeah,
rather than just carrying a message.
Well, it depends. It depends. They might have just been sent to take a view of the situation and report back. It doesn't say that they engaged with Esau, right? But the Rebbe Reb Baruch makes it sound like they just klomar milchama, that is to say, coming with the intent of war. Right? Now, that's the point. We have disagreements with people, and we try to buffer the. No. Towards teaching us here, you've got a disagreement, you've got a problem, you got to go to the person. If you involve other people, that's only going to cause more trouble, because the people you send might not know the whole story. They might misread something. They might have their own agendas. And so in the case of Yaakov, he sent malachim. Even Rashi says malachim mamash, actual angels, and they weren't effective. It's not until the two brothers actually meet that they can reconcile. And boy, the rabbis don't want that to happen, which is what's on the back. You got a double header today. Here's the verse. Vayaratz Esav likrato vayichabkehu vayipol al tzavaro vayishakehu vayivku. And you'll see, and it says, Esav ran to greet him, he embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. I mean, this is a beautiful moment. An absolutely beautiful moment. Brothers have been estranged for 20 years. Yaakov is scared to death that his brother is coming to wage war. In fact, Yaakov is so scared that he takes his entire camp, splits them into two, puts them a distance from each other, thinking that if Esav comes to do war, he'll find the first camp and have his way with that, and the second camp will survive. And then Yaakov and his family, they go across the river, even further from Esav, hoping that by the time Esav gets through killing everybody else, he'll be too tired to kill Yaakov. And then Yaakov has his dark night of the soul where he wrestles with the angel or the man or God or himself, and emerges walking with a limp and has his name changed. He's no longer known solely as Yaakov, but as Yisrael, the one who struggles with God. But then we go to, here we have Yaakov and Esav finally meeting, and Esav is running up to his brother. You'll note that the word Vayishakehu has dots above it. In the Torah scroll, those dots have to be there. There are 15 words or phrases in the Tanakh that have these dots above. 10 of them are in the Torah, and they have to be there. Why they're there, we don't really know, but they have to be there. And this one, Vayishakehu, is one of them that have it. All right, so the first comment we're going to look at is Rashi. Nekudalav, he says there are dots above. V'yesh cholkin b'davar hazeh b'braita desifrei. A braita, right? But he says there are dots of it, and there's an argument. There's a disagreement in the matter in a braita on sifrei. Sifrei is a sefer of Midrash Halacha. Right? It's a book of Midrashim, not like the rest of the Midrashim that we are most familiar with, but it deals with issues of Halacha, mostly Passover and things like that. But there's a braita there, a rabbinic teaching. Yesh, shedarshu nekuda zo shelo nishako b'chol libo. And there are those who expound or interpret the dots to mean that he did not kiss him with his whole heart. Right? That there was something phony about it. Right? That Esav just went through the motions. Right? Now the Torah doesn't say that. Right? It says he embraced him, fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. There's nothing about whether it was genuine or what. It's and I tend to read things like this as what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG, right? They embraced. It was a Hallmark moment. This would be on the Hallmark movie of the week, right? Cue John Williams score, violins and everything, right? It's a great moment. But Rashi's like, maybe he didn't kiss him with his whole heart.
Would that be like the dots being used as quotation marks?
Yeah, we're gonna see that in a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's good. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, halacha hi biyadua she'esav sonei liYaakov. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says halacha. It's not like the law, but it's well known that Esav hated Jacob. Well,
yes and no, right? Because they've been away for 20 years. Earlier, when they left, yeah, there was a little bit of animosity because, Yaakov had gonefed Esau out of the bracha, right? Yaakov had stolen the bracha, and so Esau was upset. But it seems like, well, that carried on. However, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, Ella shenichmaru rachamav ba'ota sha'a unit shako b'chol libo. He says his mercy was aroused at this very moment, and he kissed him with his whole heart. All right, so there's an attempt to kind of redeem Esau, right? But it doesn't last long, right? Esau has to be the bad guy, and he's coming with 400 men, and ultimately the story ends with them reuniting and hugging and kissing and all of that. And Yaakov says, 400 men? And Esau says, I want to show you that I've done all right for myself. I'm a warlord. This is part of my retinue. I thought I'd impress you. All right, I did okay. You took the birthright. That's fine. You took the bracha, but I've done all right for myself.
Still blessed.
I've done all right for myself, right? And so, no, I wasn't coming here to wage war. And I can imagine, some of the conversation, like brothers, right? Esau's like, Nudnik, do you think I hate you for 20 years? I haven't thought about you in 15. I've got on with my life. See, I've got a retinue. I've got guys with swords. I've got armor. I've got, obviously I'm being anachronistic. I've got a nice samurai sword. Look at this. Yeah, I'm not going to use it on you. You're my brother. I was angry at the time. And one of the things is that one of the stories or subtexts here is that Yaakov, until he faces Esau, doesn't grow much. Because he's still harboring on the fact that Esau didn't change. That Esau is still the mean big brother. And it's not until right before he meets up with Esau and Yaakov has that dark night of the soul, where his name is changed, he is changed, does he then realize that other people can change. And it's interesting, the Torah doesn't always call Yaakov Yisrael after that point. Sometimes he's Yaakov, the heel grabber, the con man. And other times he's Yisrael, the one who wrestles with God, right? And we take our name from him, right? We're not B'nai Abraham, we're not B'nai Yitzchak, we're B'nai Yisrael. We are the children of the one who struggled with God. We're the children of the one who struggled his entire life.
And the ones that do struggle.
To become who he is. All right, that was Rashi. Now we're going to get to Midrash Rabbah. This is the great Midrash, and that's what Midrash Rabbah means, the big Midrash. This is the one that everybody knows. When a rabbi says, the Midrash says, it's usually from Midrash Rabbah. And you're going to see that they don't like Esau. Vayiratz Esav likrato vayishakehu. We know the verse. Nakuda lav. There are dots above. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, b'chol makom she'ata motzei hakatav rabbah al hanekuda ata doresh et hakatav. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, anytime you see dots, and there are more script than dots, right? There's more letters than dots. You expound, you drash on the script. You read it as it is, right? So if there's more script than dots, read the script. Hanekuda rabba al hakatav, ata doresh et hanekuda. And if there's more dots than letters, then you drash on the dots, right? Why these dots? Why are they here? Okay. Ka'an
Lo katav Rabbah al hanikuda, velo nikuda Rabbah al hakatav. But in this case, the script is not, there's not more script than dots, and there's not more dots than script. They're equal. What do you do? What do you do? All right. Ella milamed shnik maru rachamav ba'ota hasha'ah unishako b'chol libo. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, you just read it the way, we've always read it, was that his mercy overcame him, and he hugged his brother with his whole heart and kissed him. Again, nothing terrible there, right? But here's where the rabbis ruined my day. Amar lo Rabbi Yanai. Here comes Rabbi Yanai. He is a party pooper. He is a guy that you don't want to invite to your parties. Because he says, in Cain, if this is so, lama nakud alav. If you're just going to read it the way we normally read it, why are there dots above it? Right? What's setting it off? You just told us, read it like we would normally read it, or read it like we've always taught it. Okay, so then why do we have the dots? I hate this one. Ella milamed, shelo ba lenashko, Ella lenashcho. Right? He didn't come to kiss him, he came to bite him. Now, you need to know Hebrew to really appreciate this play on words, but nashko means to kiss, nashcho means to bite, right? And if there's a dagesh in the chaf, which you wouldn't put there, but people who don't know the rules for that might put it there, you have lanashko, vilanashko. They sound the same. All right? And that's where it is, right? He didn't come to kiss him, he came to bite him.
Why would you bother to bite him if you had 400 people with swords?
The rabbis aren't good at always filling in all the blanks or putting all the pieces together, right? Maybe it was more that Esav wasn't going to turn this over to 400 men. He was going to bite his brother and then turn the men loose on everybody else.
It was too personal.
Too personal, right?
He probably also had a sword, though.
Yaakov?
Yeah.
Nah.
No, Esau.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but there's, it's as a youth, I watched too much television. And I read too many books about the mafia. Because the mafia was big when I was growing up. And, somebody got shot in the head as a hit. That could be anybody. Somebody who had their face pounded in. That was obviously the person who felt it was something personal, right? So the more violent the attack, the more personal it tends to be. And so the rabbi said, yeah, he could have stabbed him with a sword, but what's the fun in that? Right? He's going to come up and bite him. I don't know. Of course, I disagree with this, but it gets better. It does get better. How can it get better? V'na'aseh savaro shel avinu Yaakov shel shayish v'kahu shinav shel oto rasha. And so when he went to bite him, Yaakov's neck was transformed into marble, and the teeth of the wicked one, right? Again, how about, the wicked one? No, this is Esau. Oh no, the wicked one, his teeth were blunted, right? So whatever, I don't know, were they thinking he was filing his teeth down or something, into little points, right? But his teeth were blunted. Okay, well, great. Isaac's neck turns to marble, and Esav has dull teeth. Uma Talmud Lomar Vayivku. And so why is it taught that they cry? Ella Ze Boche Al Savaro. Yaakov is crying because his neck turned to marble, and apparently that hurts. V'zeh boche al shinav, and Esav cried because of his teeth, because apparently not only were they blunted, but when he bit down, he broke his teeth. So they're both crying, right? Rabbi Abahu b'shem Rabbi Yochanan Maite la min hacha. And so Rabbi Abahu says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, we get this from this verse in Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, Savarech ke migdal hashen. Your neck is like an ivory tower. And so Esav, once again, according to the Midrash Rabbah, remains the villain. All evidence to the contrary. All evidence to the contrary. He is the bad guy. Not only does he not want to kiss his brother, he wants to bite him.
He's also a vampire.
A vampire, a werewolf, right? A zombie maybe, I don't know. Right? But the idea is that the rabbis take a very, very nice story in which there is reconciliation, right? Esav and Yaakov hug, kiss, cry, chat a little bit, and then each goes his own way, right? Yaakov goes and becomes the patriarch because Isaac is going to die in this week's Parsha. He and Esav will come together and bury Yitzhak at Machpelah. And then Esav and Yaakov go their own ways, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful moment. And the rabbis have to blow it, right? The rabbis have to come in and say, it's not like that. Why else would there be dots? But it goes against the teachings that we had just heard, right? If there are more dots, explain the dots. If there are more letters, explain the letters. If there's equal, then we don't need the dots and we'll just teach it the way we do. But no. Rabbi Yanai, no. Esav has to be bad.
What's the motivation?
So in fact,
The rabbis.
Because we can't feel bad for guys like Ishmael and Esav because they are the older ones. They're the ones that should have gotten everything. But in fact, it's the younger ones that get it. And so the rabbis have to justify why that keeps going. And the moment we have any kind of pity for Esav, then we can say, well, yeah, Yaakov's a ganav. Yaakov is a conniver. He's a, if he were alive today, he'd be throwing 3-card Monte on a street corner in Manhattan.
So we don't know what the 20 years that Esau history was. So, in fact, he may not have been terribly fond of his brother, but he saw him as an ally rather than making a new enemy.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think sometimes we read these texts, with the 21st century. No, it's not the first time I've had this question asked, right? But the Torah in this case, there are no plays on words. He ran up to him, he fell on him, he hugged him, he kissed him, and they wept. Right? That is a very, very straightforward kind of statement. And I think, at least in the mind of the Torah, the authors of the Torah, they want to make sure that there's no animosity that we take with it against Esau, right? Because at the end of the Parsha, we get Esau's line. We get his lineage as part of the Torah, the same as we had with Ishmael,
right? We don't get a lot of other people's lines who aren't directly or intimately connected to us.
Except for, it seems like the Esau ends up being pictured as the bad guys even down to the last century.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the point, is that you have to have the bad guy, and Aesop has to be the bad guy, and so the rabbis link him to Edom, which is Rome. They link him to all the baddies. They link him in the modern period all the way up to Hitler, right? And so again, there's nothing in the text that should suggest that Aesop is that bad. When he was a young man, after his brother stole the blessing, he said, I'm going to wait till the old man is dead and I'm going to kill him. Right? Okay. And you can say, oh, see, he's evil. But give the man a break. 20 years go by and he's done well for himself. And no, we still have to hate him. If I had a nickel for every time I said to my brother or to somebody when I was growing up, I'm going to kill my brother. I never even said I'm going to wait till my dad dies. I'm going to kill him now. I would be a rich man. Now, my brother and his wife and his son live in relative security in the witness protection program. No, I'm kidding. My brother and I are brothers, and that's what happens. Did my brother ever say to his friends that he's going to kill me? Yes. Right? I mean, that's what happens, right? It's a heat of argument. It's a heat of anger. Esau was very angry when he found out that the bracha was stolen. That's what he wanted, right? It brought nothing monetarily. It brought nothing to make him wealthy. That was the bechorah. That was the thing that Esau traded for the bowl of lentil soup. He's not upset at that. He's upset that the bracha was taken. And one of the most heartbreaking verses in the Torah was when he says to his father, Avi, do you only have one bracha? You don't have anything for me. That's heartbreaking, right? And then the rabbis, and I think the rabbis are as bad as Jacob in some sense, that they can't imagine Esau changing. That over 20 years, Esau did well for himself. And he says as much as says so to his brother, I've done well. I don't, and Yaakov says to him the same thing, right? I don't need stuff from you. You don't need stuff from me. Good. Well, it's good to see you. I'm going to go back to where, my war party is, and I'm going to go, and we're going to go do some whatever we do together. And Yaakov's like, well, I'm going to head back to see, mom and the old man. And I'm, okay, good. Go well, bye. Be well. Take care. Geg isn't to hate. Be gesund. It was a 30-minute goodbye because that's Jewish goodbye, right? And that was it. Yaakov and Esau come together again to bury the father.
And there's nothing about any animosity between them at that moment, right? There's
No,
nothing in the Torah
they
about
came-
anything bad happening.
No, they came, and immediately after Isaac dies, we get the line of Esau. Right after Isaac dies, right? There's no more. That's it. Boom, we're done. Right? They came back. Esau came back to bury his father. He didn't have to. Right? Because right, it was all fake. I hate Yaakov. I'm not going to go back there. No, he came back, and they're there together. They bury the father, and then Yaakov stays with the tents and the stuff, and Esau goes back to Seir or Edom or wherever, and he's happy. He's happy, but the rabbis can't let us feel any kind of compassion or sympathy for Esau, because then it would call Yaakov's behavior into question, and we can't have that. Right? So I try to rehabilitate Esau. Right? And some of the commentators, like they said, it's well known that Esau hated Jacob, but at that moment when he saw his brother, whatever nefarious thoughts, because they always, that's the thing, there had to be nefarious thoughts. He was going to come and he was going to do something, but at that moment when he saw his brother, his compassion was stirred up. His rachamav, his compassion was stirred up, and he embraced him. Okay?
So even though the rabbis are like, at that moment, all was forgiven. That's a story of tshuva. This is a story of tshuva for both Esav and Yaakov. But the rabbis only want to see it in terms of Yaakov and not Esav.
I'm thinking of the dots. You mentioned other instances where there are dots. Is there a way to interplay with the dots actually?
We don't know.
There's no connection between other words with dots.
No. I mean, it's random. I mean, 15 places in the Tanakh, 10 in the Torah. Sometimes there's more dots than letters. Sometimes there's more letters than dots. It might be that they were put there because there might have been some teaching that went with it, but the reason for it is lost. But they have to be there. They have to be there. And the rabbis say, if there are more letters and dots, just read it in the Peshat. What you see is what you get. If there are more dots and letters, there's a drash that goes on there. And in this case, it's one of the rare cases. I don't know if there's how many other cases where there is an equal number. But in this case, this threw the rabbis for a loop, because what do I do? What do we do? And, one says, just read it as normal, right? We understand that Esav hated Yaakov, but at this moment, his compassion was inflamed, and it was great. Other ones say, then why are there dots? And now we have to make Esav bad because he bit his baby brother. He bit him. Jessica.
I think it's funny and ironic that this starts out with how you shouldn't have messengers as middlemen because it gets in the way of reconciliation. And then in being the middleman of the Torah, the rabbis prevent the reconciliation happening between Jacob and Esau.
Now, do you think that maybe that top teaching was put there kind of on purpose so that we could get to this point? I mean, there's thousands of teachings that I could have chosen from which I could have chosen, right? But I wanted that Malachim Mamash, actually angels, that we get with Reb Baruch and Rabbi Shneur Zalman, right? That you can't send messengers, you can't rely on the middleman or the middle person. And here the rabbis are doing exactly that, right? That idea that, well, we know, we have to interpret the Torah this way. We can't just let it be WYSIWYG, right? Because that would make Esav a favorable character, and God knows we can't have that. He's got to be bad. Got to be bad, and I don't like it. As a matter of fact, I've always said that if I had a son, I would have named his Hebrew name Esav, because it's a beautiful name, and somebody that I married a couple, and he converted, and he took the name Esav because he heard me talking about Esav and how the name needs to be rehabilitated, and he thought, what better name to have than Esav, which now, because he's a really good guy, tattooed beyond all things, but loves his family, loves his wife, loves his children, loves the Jewish community. Great guy, and now his name is Esav ben Avraham. And I'm like, please don't tell anybody it's because of me that you took that name, because then everybody will hate me more. And he's like, oh no, this is a good name. This is a good name, Esav. Any questions, comments? Going once, going twice. Do you all like Esav now? I think if I had anything to do with Olam Haba, right? The rabbis teach us that we're asked a number of questions before we're allowed to get into Olam Haba. Were you honest in business? Were you this? Were you that? And I think if I were in charge of that test, I would ask, do you like Esav? And if you say no, well, just well. All right. And that's the last we hear from Esav or about Esav in the Torah. but not in from the rabbis. They still like to talk about Esau. All right, let's start closing out. Page 282. I'll ask everyone, please rise for Aleinu. 282. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liotzer beishit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahen, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim akadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz u'moshev yikaro b'shamayim imal u'shchinatu zo v'govei meromim u'Eloheinu einod emet malkeinu efes ulato Kakatu b'torato v'yadata hayom v'hashemota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal v'al haaretz mitachat eho. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch li'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated. This week we observed the following yard sites: Frederick J. Glazer, Hoyt's father; Saul Hyman, Jack Hyman's uncle; and Saul built the Keith Albee Theater. Nina Klausner, Paul Mayer's maternal grandmother; Ruth Perry, Loretta Levine's mother; Eric Pyburn; Robert Simons, Sharon's husband, father of Spencer, Vicky, and Gwen; Dorothy Slifkin, Nancy Billig's mother; Isidore Rosenberg, Michael's father; Beatrice Miller, Randy's mother; Stephen Jablow, father of Samantha, Shana, and Rachel; Arthur Weisberg, Joan's husband, father of Pamela, Martha, Louis, Seth, and Charlie; Pete Island, son of Ed and Evelyn; Maxine Schoenfeld Frank, relative of Walter Lewis; Irving Innerfield; Barbara Shaddles, Steve's mother; Lydia Hess, Toby Murphy's grandmother; Anna Kaplan, Pauline's sister-in-law, wife of Sam and mother of Steve and Betsy; Charles Levine, Loretta's husband, Leanne and Amy's father; Robert Levy, husband of Joyce, father of Peter, Jane, and Joel; Helen Robbins, Howard Feinberg's maternal grandmother; Joseph Ellswick, Pat Johnson's great-great-grandfather. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they always rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach li'olam u'lemei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shmei d'kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbachata b'nechamata, damiram ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. You may be seated. Shabbat shalom and good Shabbos. Oh, just a couple of heartbreaking announcements. We'll get to the heartbreak in a bit. Services tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then at 1 a.m., 1 a.m., please. I had a Hebrew teacher in college, Carrie Moore. Oh, there's a joke about that. But he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and taught Hebrew at 5 a.m. The golden hour, he called it.
Yeah.
Only if you're an old man is that the golden hour. When you're an undergraduate, 3 a.m. is when you're going to bed. But Carrie Moore, at 1 p.m., 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll have our Hebrew class, still Hebrew 2, we're making there. And then at 2 o'clock, our Siddur and prayer class. And last week we learned about the history of the Siddur. And this week we're going to learn about what exactly is Jewish prayer, what exactly is Jewish prayer. And we'll leave it at that. And then we'll start looking at what makes up a bracha and look at the services in general. And then we're going to go into specific services and prayers, not this week, but down the road. So that's tomorrow. Tomorrow at 5, there's a board meeting before the congregational meeting at 5:30. So that's tomorrow. Come and spend some time with us. You'll see what's been happening at the synagogue. And it's a time to, voice your opinion. So that's tomorrow. Then it's quiet. And then Cantor Beth comes to town. I'm trying not to think about it. It hurts me. Because she'll be in town and I've never liked her. But she'll be in town, and next Friday night at before the regular service, we'll have a tiny human Shabbat. And then at 6 o'clock, we'll have a kind of a musical Shabbat. And then Saturday morning at 10, we'll have our regular service, and then we're going to have a lunch and learn. So it'll be a short drosh, but then we'll spend some time learning something more seriously and much more deeply on Shabbat after services. And there'll be lunch, hence it's called Lunch and Learn. And then Saturday night at 7, I believe, an evening of live music and other entertainments. And so Cantor Beth, who's can guess? No, I'll be singing, and Cantor Beth will be singing a lot of stuff on Saturday night. It'll be a nice time. And then Sunday at 9 o'clock, and next Sunday we'll have a morning minyan. And then in the afternoon, Cantor Beth and I will have a family-friendly Hanukkah project and teaching. You'll get an email on Monday, but everything except for Friday night needs a reservation. We really, really want to know how many are going to be here for the lunch and learn, how many are going to be coming to the entertainment, and then how many for the Hanukkah teaching, because there'll be food involved in the lunch and learn the Saturday night, and then supplies will be needed for Sunday. So please RSVP as soon as you can. You can RSVP after Shabbat, leave a message. You don't have to wait till you get the email, but please RSVP if you're coming to any of the events. And then that's it. And then Hanukkah starts the following week. So got a lot coming up. I think that's it. Yeah, Cantor Beth, I'm already having nightmares. But, on to every beautiful Shabbat, sometimes a little rain must fall. No, believe me, I absolutely adore Cantor Beth. It's not, I don't need Judah. I know people, he hates the Cantor. Why does he hate the Cantor?
Can we negotiate for her?
No middle people. She's on the hook for her own sins. Okay, let's close out on 3:22 with Ein Keloheinu, and then Kiddush. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Chadonenu, Mi Chemalkeinu, Mi Choshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru, Abotenu, Lefanecha Ketoret Asamim. Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berit Olam. Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berit Olam. Beni uvein Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, Oti liolam. Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Berit Olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, Asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabbat la'asot et hashabbat lidormotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabbat la'asot et hashabbat lidorotam berit olam. Zachor Yom HaShabbat L'Kadsho, Sheshet Yamim Tavod V'asita Chol Malatecha, V'yom HaShvi Shabbat L'Adonai Elohecha, Lo Ta'aseh Chol Malacha, Ata Uvin Kavitecha Abdecha V'amatecha V'hemtecha V'gercha Asher B'Yisharecha, Ki Sheshet Yamim Asa Adonai HaShamayim V'Ha'aretz Et Hayam V'et Kol Asher Bam, V'yanach B'yom HaShvi, Al Kein Beirach Adonai Et Yom HaShabbat, V'yikadshehu Savri, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, borei peri hagafen. Geffen. We have people on the intertubes saying hello. We have Ron Innerfield, Shabbat Shalom from Dubai, where it is already Havdalah. Yeah, Ron, that would make sense. Well, be safe. There's Judith. Shabbat Shalom from Gallipolis. Gallipolis. They say Gallipolis. Thank you. If I were in Minnesota, we would describe the weather today as brisk. Yes, Judith, thank you. In Pennsylvania, it is brisk. Oh, there's Mom. Shabbat Shalom to all from Rabbi's Mom and Cliff from cold Pennsylvania. Wishing all a peaceful weekend and a great week ahead. Stay safe and warm. Hi, David J, Miranda, Nick, Elizabeth, and Amy.
Shabbat Shalom, Mom.
Oh, and Mom says we will be there, apparently next week. So that's good. Yay. Cantor Beth and my mom and Cliff. Oh, I am blessed. Yes, I am. All right, friends. It is a beautiful day out there. It is brisk, according to Judith. And if you do go out, dress appropriately and enjoy the day. I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a good Shabbos, and please, please be careful out there.
Are you all right?